Floyd Mayweather figured out a long time ago that the best thing a fighter can do for himself is flip the paradigm. What do I mean by that? For years, really the history of boxing, the basic paradigm is this: fans and networks exploit fighters, right? We want to see them in great fights. What does that mean? It means we want to see them tested. What does that mean? It means we want to see them hit and hurt. And how do they respond? And can they dig deep and overcome and make great action fights, right? That's what we want to see. Floyd was like, well, actually, from the fighter's point of view, my best interest is take minimal risk, maximum reward, not get hit, get out with all my money and all my marbles, right? Like, that's in the fighter's best interest. Fighters and fans' interests diametrically opposed. And so what Floyd figured out after a while, for example, with Pacquiao, Stephen A., is I don't have to fight this dude at the height of his powers. I can wait. Okay, I'll fight him now. Now there's pent-up demand. I'm going to make 5 times more than I would have made back then to fight a guy who's not as dangerous as he was back then. That's smart. And then what he realizes, wait a minute, because Conor McGregor's rise, I don't even have to fight fighters, boxers. I can fight dudes who don't box and make $100 million. Now, what fool wouldn't do that if he could? Why fight a guy who's trained his whole life to box you for $30 million when you can fight a guy who hasn't trained his whole life boxing for $100 million? Well, of course, Floyd's right about that, so that's what he did. And since then, he's realized, Stephen A., he never has to get in the ring with a dude who's trained his whole life to box, and he can make money. Whether it's a Japanese kickboxer, right, who's smaller than him, whether it's Logan Paul, who's a YouTube star who's twice his size, it doesn't matter. If you haven't trained in boxing your whole life, it's easy work for Floyd at any age, and he's going to make tens and tens of millions of dollars to do it.
Max Kellerman, here's where I disagree with you. I think he'd make that money if it was Jake Paul, because Jake Paul is the new sensation because of what he did to Nate Robinson. So, again, we're not talking about anybody. Much respect to the Pauls, because obviously they take this seriously. They're trying to do their old thing, but major props and nothing but respect to the both of them. But in terms of Jake Paul, because of what he did to Nate Robinson, the bottom line is he is the guy that is more popular right now, from my understanding. I could be wrong. I apologize if I am. But from my understanding, I think he's the guy that is more popular because of what he did to Nate, who Floyd knows, because Floyd knows a lot of these NBA players. A lot of these NBA players talk to Floyd. So seeing what happened to Nate Robinson was not a good thing, and Floyd was very encouraging on social media to Nate Robinson, giving him a lot of props for being brave enough to step in that squared circle, and I appreciate that from Floyd. But I'm just saying, when I think about Floyd, first of all, it's the wrong Paul. If he's going to fight either one of them, it's the wrong Paul that he's fighting, because Jake is the rage right now, as opposed to Logan, from my understanding. And then outside of that, me personally, if it's an exhibition, I would prefer to see them I'd rather see Floyd against Oscar De La Hoya. I'd rather see Floyd in a rematch against Conor McGregor. I'd rather see something like that rather than him fight a guy that just learning how to, and I'm not saying learn how, but please, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I'm in no way am I trying to be disrespectful to the Pauls. But I'm just saying, in terms of their official boxing experience.
For guys who just started.
They're just starting. I'm like, no, if you Floyd, do an exhibition against someone. Like, I didn't like how Roy looked, okay? But Roy is a former world champion who had over 50 fights on his resume that decided to get into the ring with Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson didn't get in the ring with somebody that had one professional fight. And I don't understand that with Floyd. I don't understand that to me.
Logan Paul actually has more Twitter and Instagram followers than Jake Paul. They both have in the millions.
No, I'm just talking about right now, Mac.
Even bigger
because of
on
the Nate
social
Robinson
media.
Yeah, I'm just talking about because of Nate Robinson.
Sure, but maybe Floyd's looking at Jake like, maybe Floyd's looking at them like, Jake is going to be a little harder. Logan will be like, who knows? The point is, he is going to go make a big event and make many millions of dollars for boxing a guy who hasn't been boxing his whole life. He's figured that out. He can do that till he's 75 and make money every time. By the way, Mike and Roy just moved 1.4 million pay-per-views.
1.4 million.
That's more than like Triple G and Canelo.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.